Jonathan Howe, that's Jonathan, surname How.
What has the Bureau just released?
The Bureau of Meteorology has released its long-range forecast for autumn 2023. Autumn is likely to be drier than usual across most of Australia.
Jono, what has the Bureau just released?
The Bureau of Meteorology has released its long-range forecast for autumn 2023. Autumn is likely to be drier and warmer than usual across most of Australia.
What are the climate influences behind the long-range forecast?
Australia's key climate drivers are easing in strength and expected to be neutral over the coming months. When our climate drivers are more neutral, autumn rainfall in southern Australia has generally been lower than average over the recent decades. La Nina is coming to an end in the Pacific Ocean, where conditions are likely to be neutral during autumn. The Indian Ocean dipole is neutral and has little influence on Australia's climate during the northern wet season, which extends through to April.
What is the bushfire potential during autumn?
Destructive fires can still occur in autumn. The wet winter and spring of 2022 led to lots of vegetation growth, which has started to dry out over summer. This provides abundant fuel for grass fires. Australia's fire agencies have identified several areas of above normal bushfire risk this autumn, including parts of New South Wales, Queensland and Western Australia. Some areas in the east have below normal bushfire potential, including parts of eastern New South Wales and eastern Victoria.
And what about flood risk?
The northern wet season continues, meaning tropical weather systems that develop, including tropical cyclones and lows, have the potential to bring significant rain. This means the risk of flooding remains in areas where soils are still wet and rivers and dams are high, including large parts of eastern and northern Australia. Stream flows remain high across parts of southeastern Australia and across areas of the north.
Jono, can you tell us a little bit more about the wet season impacts?
For northern Australia, the wet season continues during March and April. Tropical cyclones, tropical lows, storms and active monsoon bursts can still occur in the north. During the northern wet season, tropical weather may, at times, reach southern Australia. The chance of more rainfall means the flood risk remains, as rivers and water storages are still high. Communities are encouraged to stay up to date with forecasts and warnings through the Bureau's website and the Bomb Weather app.
We're just going to get into some state stuff now. Can you tell us about Queensland's summer and what Queensland is likely to expect this autumn?
It's likely to be drier than usual this autumn for nearly all of Queensland, with warmer days likely across the state. Australia's fire agencies have identified parts of Queensland as having an above normal bushfire risk during autumn. This summer, North Queensland had well above average rainfall. Some parts of Cape York had record summer rainfall. In contrast, it was drier than usual this summer in southeastern Queensland, where there has been very much below average rainfall. Summer was cooler than average across most of the state, except for the far southwest.
Can you tell us about New South Wales summer and what New South Wales is likely to expect this autumn?
It's likely to be a drier than usual autumn for New South Wales inland of the Great Dividing Range. The northern wet season extends through to April, and remaining tropical storms may at times reach into New South Wales. The chance of more rainfall means there's still a flood risk as rivers and water storages remain high. Warmer autumn days are likely for most of the state, including the ACT, and warmer nights are likely along the coast. Australia's fire agencies have identified parts of New South Wales as having an above normal bushfire potential during autumn.
Go from summer, I reckon.
Summer was cooler than average across most of the state, except for the far west and overall the coolest since summer of 2011 to 2012. It was drier than usual this summer across much of New South Wales, especially in the northeast.
And what about Victoria?
It's likely to be drier than usual this autumn for eastern parts of Victoria and some of the alpine areas. Warmer autumn days are likely for most of the state, and warmer nights are likely across southern and eastern Victoria. While most of Victoria has normal bushfire potential during autumn, Australia's fire agencies have identified parts of eastern Victoria as having below normal fire potential. Summer temperatures were close to average for much of Victoria, but warmer than average for coastal areas around Melbourne. Rainfall was below average over summer for much of Victoria, except for eastern Gippsland and the southwest.
What about Western Australia?
It's likely to be drier than usual this autumn for nearly all of Western Australia. Warmer autumn days are likely across the state, particularly in the southwest. Australia's fire agencies have identified parts of Western Australia as having an above normal bushfire potential during autumn. This past summer, the northern tropical parts of the state had very much above average rainfall, particularly from ex-tropical cyclone Ellie in early January. In contrast, it was a much drier summer than usual for southern and some inland parts of Western Australia. Summer was cooler than average in northern inland areas and along the south coast, while the western and central areas had above average temperatures.
I'll start from South Australia. And what about South Australia?
It's likely to be drier than usual this autumn across all of South Australia, with warmer autumn days also likely across the state. Australia's fire agencies have identified South Australia as being likely to have near normal bushfire potential during autumn. Summer was warmer than average for much of South Australia, except for the southeast of the state. Rainfall was below average over summer in the southeast of the state.
How about Tasmania?
It's likely to be drier than usual this autumn in Tasmania's northwest. Warmer autumn days and nights are also very likely across the state. Australia's fire agencies have identified Tasmania as being likely to have near normal bushfire potential during autumn. Summer was warmer than average across Tasmania. Rainfall was below average over summer in most of the state and very much below average along the west.
And what about the Northern Territory?
It's likely to be drier and warmer than usual this autumn across the Territory. Australia's fire agencies have identified the Northern Territory as likely to have normal bushfire potential during autumn. Most of the Territory had very much above average rainfall over the past 3 months, from December to February. It has also been much cooler than average for inland areas over December to February, while western parts of the top end had above average temperatures.